Hello, listeners. We're going to start today with a content warning. The media discussed contains depictions of self harm, sexual assault, and animal cruelty, and just lots and lots of violence in general. If that's not for you, no worries at all, but this is the time to switch off. This is A Murder Most Growl. Meet Frank. Frank's having a rough day, a rough couple of years, really. You see, his whole family was murdered by his best friend in a syndicate of crime families, so he used his skills he learned as a Marine to hunt them down and kill them. But now Frank has a problem. No, not his rapidly decreasing mental health and the talking apparitions that plague him paired with his access to firearms. It's that there's no one left to kill because he's killed them all. Let's get into The Punisher, One Last Kill. I'd say there will be spoilers ahead, but there isn't much to spoil. Okay, so I'm sure you've caught on that I'm talking about Disney Plus's new Punisher special, a continuation of the Punisher Netflix series with John Bernthal from We Own the City and the Bear returning as the titular vigilante. The Punisher was underrated, and I'll get to why you were wrong to listen to people telling you that it was slow, but not just yet. The stat sheet on this one is confusing. Yes, it's a one-off special like the excellent Werewolf by Night, but that was self-contained. It was a story the MCU hadn't touched before and haven't touched since. The Punisher is ongoing, and there was a 2-season series about him, and he spent plenty of time in the Netflix Daredevil series and Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus. So what exactly is this special meant to be? It seems the writers were as confused as I am. It retreads Frank's origin story enough to act as a standalone, giving newcomers a crash course on his tragically murdered family and the ghosts and demons that haunt him to this day. I wouldn't say he looked particularly well adjusted in Born Again, but he's spiraling and the ghosts seem to be winning. Frank's not in a good place right now, and I don't just mean the neighborhood that's under siege from a criminal power vacuum that he caused with his revenge campaign. Random violence abounds, the streets are incredibly unsafe. There's no rhyme or reason to it either, which is demonstrated from the opening scene of the special. It looks practically post-apocalyptic and most certainly dystopian, and unfortunately far too close to our reality for comfort. And Frank, the Punisher, does nothing. It's truly upsetting to see a hero ignore innocent people getting seriously hurt right in front of his face. But then again, Punisher isn't a hero, really, is he? At least that's the push-pull of his treatment in the MCU era. It's been a hard balancing act. It's not that Punisher kills that's the problem. I mean, Iron Man kills. Captain America kills Nazis, like any good hero. Squirrel Girl? I don't really know what she does, to be honest, but she's fun as heck in Marvel Rivals. No, it's the manner in which he kills, nearly indiscriminately, passing the same judgment on the smallest infractions as the most unforgivable. The Netflix series changed that. He was still brutal, killing not with glee, but with single-minded purpose. He never meant to be a hero, but he was still generally doing good, for the most part at least, and I think Born Again especially went into the ramifications of such exacting vigilantism. This special doesn't walk it back, but it puts him in a position where extreme violence is his only option and doesn't have any room for questions of morality. And this is where this special fails. It's the first act of a movie that's trying to be a whole movie, and a series recap, a standalone special, and set up a sequel. They jammed so much of so little into it that they forgot to leave room for a story. Remember how I said there was no one left to kill? Well, it turns out he missed one. The Nucci family's matriarch, the elderly and disabled Ma Nucci, played by Judith Light from Transparent and Who's the Boss. She does the most comic book villain thing ever and shows up to Frank's apartment, accounts in painstaking detail and slow-motion flashback the killing of her family members by Frank, and then tells him that he has until a time that evening before she calls a John Wick-style open season on him and lets everyone know where he is. Instead of pulling the gun he had in his belt and killing her and her bodyguard right then and there, he decides to go up to his apartment, hallucinate again, and then watch and wait as some random thugs break down the door across the hall and assault a young mother. He does nothing until one of them pours gasoline on his door and sets fire to it and him. This finally gets him into the fight, and he proceeds to kill his way through a combination of reverse dread, which is instead of one protagonist going into an apartment building full of killers, it's a bunch of killers descending on an apartment building with a protagonist in it, and a zombie movie. I'm not exaggerating. The men who come after him run at him with reckless abandon and inhuman drive. They have no fear, they attack everything in their way, and they don't stop until they're killed, generally by headshot. They are mindless. They are essentially zombies. They come in endless waves, as if appearing out of thin air, and they disappear for no discernible reason other than it was time for the special to end. This is a 50-minute TVMA special where the credits rolling at 44 minutes and nothing really happening for the first 26 minutes. The last 18 minutes or so are a video game mission where the player character has to survive waves of zombies until the timer runs out and it's time for the MCU to move on to the next project. And yes, there is a scene where he falls off a roof and the CGI makes him look exactly like Joel from The Last of Us, the game, not the series. But one instance of bad CG isn't this special's biggest problem, not even close. If this is a feeler for a full Punisher series, as much as I would love to see that return because I was a big fan of the Netflix series, this does not leave me with much confidence for the direction they want to take him. If all you wanted was to watch Jon Bernthal grunt, grumble, and growl his way through dozens of mindless enemies with no real story, no emotional connections to just about any of the characters, and no discernible direction or character development, then this is certainly for you. Do your Wordle or your Duolingo or fold your laundry during the first 26 minutes, and then watch the last 20 minutes. It really does feel like you're watching a video game instead of a movie / TV episode / TV special / pilot episode / whatever this is meant to be, which does an incredible disservice to the foundation laid by the Netflix series. The Punisher was a surprisingly contemplative series. The first season wasn't slow, it was deliberate. It had a point to make. The Punisher took its time to show you the effects of PTSD, not just on Frank, but on other veterans who are struggling to return to life after being asked to do violence on behalf of the country. It shows how these young men and women are sent overseas to take part in the worst thing that humanity does to each other and come home to a government that wants to forget them and a society that doesn't feel safe for them anymore and doesn't offer them a way forward. The Punisher wanted us to look at how we treat our veterans. We can have parades, we can have holidays, but if we don't take care of them when they come home, what are we even doing? What's the point of the lip service and the bumper magnets if no one cares when a veteran comes home to the country they were ostensibly sent to protect and they need help and can't get it? That's what The Punisher asked you to think about. The first season was a tale of two ghosts, each living half a life, both trying to find a way to make themselves whole. And beyond that very personal, meaningful story, the series brought attention to these much bigger issues. The second season gave Frank someone to protect, a surrogate for his own daughter. And yes, I have a soft spot for stories about gruff men protecting innocent people who can't protect themselves. The Mandalorian, Logan, the list goes on. But I think that's when Frank is truly at his best. Not roaming the streets with a skull painted on his t-shirt, shooting everyone with a dime bag, but as a self-sacrificing guardian of those who desperately need it. I wanted so badly for this to be good. I know Punisher is finally making his big screen debut in the next Spider-Man movie, No Way Far From Brand New Homecoming, or whatever it's going to be called. So I was hoping this would be a good way for those who might have missed the Punisher series the first time around to get a glimpse of what this version of the Punisher could be. Smartly written, deeply emotional, with something to say about our society. Instead, we got a 44-minute video game mission that doesn't get going for 26 minutes. I would say this special is all action and no story, but it's not even half action. And with characters with names like Old Vet, Ma, and Isaiah's mother, it doesn't even take its downtime to give us something on an emotional level. And as a side note, how is Punisher even on the run? He goes to his family's gravestones twice in 40 minutes. If you really wanted to capture or kill the Punisher, stake out the cemetery for an hour, he's bound to show up at least once. How has he not been found yet? What a waste of time, effort, and a great character redeemed by the Netflix era of the MCU and brought back in glorious fashion in Born Again. Skip one last kill unless you really just want to see 18 minutes of Jon Bernthal shooting people in the face. But if you want to watch The Punisher at his very best, stick to the Netflix series and Daredevil. Disney committed to the violence but ignored everything else. The worst punishment of this special was watching what they did with this character. And that's all for today. Remember the old saying, dying is easy, comedy is hard. Writing a blog is somewhere in between. Like and subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies. Tell the ghosts you growl at in your empty apartment with no furniture. Thank you for lending me your ear and choosing to spend your time with me. Catch you next time.